ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। We are seeing the Manomaya Kosha, and in this Manomaya Kosha we left off at Shloka 172 in a simile that the wind gathers the clouds, and the same wind which is responsible for gathering the clouds also disperses the clouds. In the same way, the mind is a sole cause of all bondage that it gathers. And when this mind is trained, when this mind is systematically worked with, that same mind also becomes the cause of liberation, is what we saw over here in Shloka 172. Continuing, Shloka number 173. Dehadi sarva vishaye parikalpya ragam badnati tena purusham pashuvad gunena vairasya matra vishaya vishavat suvidhaya paschat enam vimochayati tanmana eva baddhat. So over here, deha adi sarva vishaye. Over here, deha adi sarva vishaye, starting from deha, the body itself over here, and all objects exposed to the mind, starting from the body all the way up to the five senses of perception, five senses of action, and each one of the five senses of the sense objects of the senses of perception. All of these over here, deha adi, starting from the deha, etc. Vishaye, all sense objects. Ragam, ragam parikalpya, Ragam, it creates attachment. Mind creates attachment starting from the body, all the senses, starting from the body all the way up to all the senses, sense objects, and the objective reality. Ragam, attachment. Parikalpya, it creates this attachment. Having created this attachment, then Tena, by these attachments, Purusham, the embodied soul, the embodied jiva, Purusham, over here, Purusham, Pashuvad Gunena Badnati, like an animal, Gunena, by these gunas born out of Prakriti. Guna guneshu vartante itimatvana sajjate. Bhagavan says, wise is a person who understands the play of all these gunas, and such a wise person who stays away from the gunas and becomes a witness, he is not bound. But the minute the one becomes one with the gunas, one becomes attached to the gunas, then the play of the maya, the play of the gunas start. And over here, pashuvat, pashuvat, like an animal, just like in the barnyard, in the village homes, behind the homes they have a barn where they tie various cattle. The horses are tied, the donkeys are tied, the cows are tied, buffaloes are tied, each one of them in swasva golake, in their own respective places, the animals are tied. In the same way, the human being becomes tied to various sense objects, and these objects, when the mind is tied to it, it becomes badnati. Over here, the person becomes bound. The person, that poor cow or buffalo or donkey, whichever animal it is, when it is tied to a peg, the movement of the animal is dictated by the length of the rope which is tied to the peg. The smaller the rope, the less the freedom that the animal enjoys around the peg. The longer the rope, the little bit more room that the animal has for moving about, but it is bound. In the same way, the human being creates mental chains, and it is these mental chains of my house, my recipe, my way of doing things, my children, my home, my car. It just goes on and on and on. Umpteen objects we find ourselves tied to. If one piece of cloth is not enough, there are so many pieces of cloth, clothing, article of clothing, and we keep on buying and not releasing the ones which are sitting over there for years, and if not years, decades. This happens to everybody. This is the autobiography of a jiva, where it feels like it is the owner of it, and it is going to use it, that it is going to need it, and in its use it's going to find joy out of it. There is a false sense of security. There is a false sense of the idea that the object is capable of giving me joy. In the technical language of Vedanta, it is called Shobhana Adhyas, a superimpositioning on the object. It may be a son, a daughter, spouse, a job, a relationship. It goes on and on. That this object, this person, this situation, this job, it is capable of giving me happiness. The idea that the objective reality is going to give me happiness. It is called Shobhana Adhyas. And that Shobhana Adhyas is the unspoken chain. That is the unseen chain with which we are bound. And this is what Shankaracharya ji is talking about over here. Pashuvat gunena badnati. And further, paschat, thereafter, what happens? So the first two lines of the shloka gives us a scenario of bondage. And the second, the third and the fourth lines, the second half of the shloka gives us a very unique look into it. What does it say? Paschat, thereafter. What is this thereafter? Thereafter experiencing the world, after enjoying the sense objects, after living in this world. Our Mundaka Upanishad says, Pariksha Lokan, having examined the world. In Mahabharata, there is a king known as Parikshit, because of whom the Bhagavatam starts. This Parikshit Raja has been cursed that in 7 days you will find death. And he leaves his kingdom and gives this kingdom to Janmejai, his son. And he leaves Hastinapur in search of finding liberation from this world, finding truth. When he was in his mother's womb, Uttara, Abhimanyu's son, and Abhimanyu died in the 18-day Mahabharata war. And Uttara is the only one who is Garbhavati, and all children of Draupadi are killed. Ashwathama had vanquished all of them. So, Uttara's heir is the sole heir of the entire kingdom. But on her womb, it is said that Ashwathama had released Brahmastra. And Bhagavan, Shri Krishna, knew about it, and Bhagavan released Sudarshan Chakra. And that Sudarshan Chakra is the one which protected Parikshit Ji when he was in his mother's womb. And that Brahmastra could not stand against the Chakra of all Chakras. And that Parikshit Ji, when he was born, it is said, his entire life, he did pariksha. Is this what saved me? Is this what saved me? Is this what saved me? He was looking for the Sudarshan Chakra. Narayana, Sakshat Narayana himself. That is called pariksha. Mundaka Upanishad uses this word, Pariksha Lokan, having examined this world. Nastya Krita Akrutena. We cannot find the true bliss by toiling in this pluralistic world of karma. So, this paschat word over here, paschat, meaning afterwards, having examined that this world has absolutely nothing for me to stay over here. I wasn't here a few decades ago, and for how long I'm going to be here, I don't know. In this fleeting life, what is my purpose? So that person becomes viveki. And this viveka janita buddhi necessarily starts cutting the cords which it is bound to. That this is not going to give me joy. This is not going to give me happiness. That understanding, when that vivek buddhi cuts the cord, that is called vairagya. Viveka janita vairagya. And what does Shankaracharya just say? Paschat vishavat. Vishavat, like poison. Just like if a poison is delivered in a cup and we are told that it is a poison, will we drink it? We won't. So, vishavat, atra, right here and now. Vairasyam. Vairasyam will be distaste. There will be no taste left in the mouth for enjoying the object. Guruji gives very beautiful example, Swami Tejomayananji. Anybody who has eaten the Indian mango in the Indian way, you clean the mangoes outside and then while the skin is on it, you press it and you get all the juices flowing inside the mango itself. And you take the tip and you suck out the juice. And as the juice, the king of the fruits, mango, Indian mango, when it is enjoyed, the joy, the trupti one feels of eating the sweet summer mangoes, when no more juice is flowing from that mango, it has become completely scrunched, but there is a seed inside that mango skin. The hole is made little bigger, the skin is popped out into the mouth, and that seed is popped out and it is sucked completely dry. And when it is dried, what do we do with the seed? Discard it. But the mango skin is still there. It will be flipped inside out and that will be also sucked dry. That is called vairasya, no more rasa. The mango seed tossed, the very mango skin tossed, bhukta bhogaha, it's enjoyed. That mango can never ever give joy again. And have understood that I have to drop the skin and the mango seed. That is called vairasyam. There is absolutely no taste. But this happens with the objective reality on the outside, with each object. Vivek buddhi, when the buddhi informs the mind that there is nothing left over here, why are you chasing this? And that mind generates distaste for the sense objects. And when it drops the sense object, that is called vairagya. Just like the mango seed is dropped, the moment it leaves the hand and falls on the earth, nobody goes back, grabs that mango seed and tries to enjoy it again. There is nothing left. The world of sense objects, by vivek buddhi, we have learned our lessons in all our transactions of life, with people, with situations, with objects, everything. And the person has no taste remaining. And when it drops, the vivek buddhi creates vairagya at the level of mind. The mind now endowed with vivek and vairagya, not running towards the sense objects. What does that do? That suvidhaya, having samyak, sushtu, vidhaya, having ascertained, having discerned, having understood, what does he do? Over here, suvidhaya paschad, enam tan mana eva badnat vimochayati. That mind itself, tan manaha eva, that mind alone, which was bound to the objects, bandhat, the attachment to the sense objects, vimochayati, it is liberated from it. This shloka comes and tells us, without vivek, vairagya will not dawn. And without vairagya, there is no liberation from the attachment to the outside world of objects and the inside world of emotional bondage. We call that worry, anxiety, fear. The inner world of objective reality is the emotional bondage. How will I live without my children? How will I live without my spouse? How will I live without my financial securities? The inner world of worries and anxieties binds the mind, and the external world of objects also binds the mind. Both are pashuvat gunena badnati. Both of them, like an animal, are tied with tight ropes created by the mind and mind alone. This over here, Shankaracharya ji says, this is the dawn of the jivatva bhav is created out of attachment. The same divinity, the same Brahman reflects in the pool of the antakarana. And that mind somehow, in that reflection of pure consciousness, it plays a game with itself and it forgets its own divine nature. Not being able to realize its divine nature, it goes in search of some other objects which can complete it. Non-apprehension created misapprehension that the world of objects can give me joy. Not knowing that I am the very fountain of bliss. This is the Atma Katha, the autobiography of a Jiva. And the Jivatva Bhav dawns from the mind, and the Jivatva Bhav ends when the mind has had it. Enough is enough is enough. In his compositions, he uses this word alam pratyaya, enough. Enough is enough is enough is enough. Over. The jiva doesn't want any of this. It is not happy, it is not content with it. Why? Because it examined that the inside world is fleeting, the outside world is fleeting, and dependence on something which is continuously changing and moving is absurd. Let me not depend on any of these things for my joy and happiness. And that is what this shloka talks about. Continuing the same ideas in different ways, Shankaracharya repeats, because this has to be understood. Only when we understand it, we can come out of our attachment. There is a subtle joy, inexplicable joy. If somebody comes and says, I want this, take it. Because it doesn't define me. It doesn't add value to me. Only I can add value to myself by freeing myself. That is true freedom. Freedom has to be owned up. By saying I'm free, I'm not free. We have to claim our freedom by severing the ties and living within the realms of our own reality of the understanding of Vedanta. That is how we can grow in our spiritual stature. Continuing 174. Tasman manak karanamasya jantoho bandhasya mokshasya cha va vidhane bandhasya hetur malinam rajo gunaihi mokshasya shuddham virajastamaskam. So, tasmad, the thought is continuing from the last shloka. Therefore, it is said, therefore, bandhasya mokshasya, of the bondage and of the liberation, chava vidhane, the bringing about of the liberation or bringing about of the bondage, jantoho karanam asya manaha. Mind alone is the cause of the jiva for bondage and for liberation. That is the first two lines. Amrit Bindu Upanishad says, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. Gurudev refers to that in the footnote over here. That is from Amrita Bindu Upanishad. The very first mantra of the Upanishad starts with this. The Upanishad starts with this. Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. The exact same thing Shankaracharya has paraphrased over here in the shloka. Tasmat manaha eva bandhasya mokshasya vidhane jantoho karanam. Mind alone is the cause of bandhasya, bondage, mokshasya, of the moksha, vidhane, the very bringing about of this. Mind alone is the cause. Then bandhasya hetuhu, the third line, bandhasya hetuhu, the cause of bondage, it is said, malinam rajaha gunaihi. The rajo guna, that too, not just rajas, malina rajas. Malina rajas meaning the rajas which is admixture of both rajas and tamoguna. That is called malina rajas. That malina rajas is the cause of bondage. What is the malina rajas? We saw that earlier. When we say the tamo guna does what? The tamo guna envelops its true nature. And what does the rajoguna do? The having enveloped its own higher nature, now the rajoguna comes and creates vikshepa shakti. It makes the mind kampana. It starts moving, it starts trembling. And it starts trembling where? Towards the objective reality. Because of the tamo guna, its own higher is enveloped, not being able to understand that I am that. Now the movement is for something else. That particular object, that particular situation will make me happy. That understanding is the source of bondage. Bandhasya hetuhu malinam rajo gunaihi, but mokshasya hetuhu. What is the cause of moksha, the liberation? So mokshasya hetu, it says virajaha tamaskam shuddham. So viraja, the rajoguna, which is devoid of rajas, positively having eradicated rajas, and tamaskamcha, and even the tamo guna is removed. When the tamas is removed and when the rajas is removed, what remains is shuddham. So what is meant by shuddham? Shuddha sattva. It is implied over here. We have to add Shuddha Sattva remains. And that Shuddha Sattva over here, when the mind and the intellect are devoid of Rajas and Tamas, and there is no Malina Sattva, it is Shuddha Sattva. Malina Sattva meaning the mind and the intellect, they have sattvic, but the rajas and the tamas takes the mind and the intellect for a ride here and there. So when the rajas is removed, when the tamas is removed, and when both of them are removed, what remains is Shuddha Sattva, and that becomes Mokshasya Hetuhu. It becomes the cause of moksha. Continuing, 176, next shloka. Viveka vairagya gunatirekat शुद्धत्वमासाद्य मनोविमुक्त्यै भवत्यतो बुद्धिमतो मुमुक्षोः ताभ्यां दृढाभ्यां भवितव्यमग्रे. विवेक वैराग्य गुणातिरेकात्. Vivek, the Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivek, a simple discrimination between what is real, what is unreal. Vairagya, the dispassion, having understood that this objective reality is not the reality which is going to give me lasting happiness. Having that viveka janita buddhi informs the mind to sever the ties with the inner emotional bondage and the outer objective bondage, that vivek and vairagya atirekat, when the predominance of the quality and the texture of vivek and vairagya grows. Over here, Shuddhatvam, Shuddhatvam asadya manaha vimukti bhavati. And the purity rises because of the vivek and vairagya janita buddhi, which informs the mind to sever its ties, and that mind seeks more and more and more guidance from the inner prajwalit buddhi, the buddhi which is daily taking bath in abhyas of shastra. When the buddhi daily is taking bath in the subtle, deeper imports of shastra, shravanam, mananam, nididhyasan, to the extent that the buddhi does shravanam, to the extent that the buddhi does mananam, to that extent the buddhi becomes very subtle, very powerful, grabs the mind in its own orb by allowing the mind to create vairagya from this world. What happens? Asadya over here, having gained the control over the mind, manaha vimukti bhavati. That mind, vimukti, it is liberated from the objective reality. That is what happens. Our entire purpose in the study of Vedanta is to make our buddhi subtler and subtler and subtler and subtler. Whenever we get an opportunity to do Shravanam, we should do Shravanam. And whatever 3-4 points which stand out in our understanding of Shravanam, we should reflect upon those. Mananam. And nididhyasan is when we drive those ideas deeper into our personality. We percolate our entire personality with these ideas. To that extent, both vivek and vairagya will create a strong fort to protect the jiva within in its march to freedom, in its march to mukti. That over here is a ataha, then buddhimato. Buddhimato, the jiva now who is endowed with higher thoughts, a wise person. Buddhimato, mumukshoho, and the mumukshu, the ones who are desirous of liberation, the wise people who have spent time to cultivate this knowledge, to acquire this knowledge, and the students who seek mukti in this birth alone. So the ones who have done Shravanam, the ones who are desirous of liberation, so such jivas over here, tabhyam drudabhyam agra bhavitavya. Agra, in the beginning, what should they do, the wise people and the mumukshus? Agraha, in the beginning, tabhyam, vivek vairagyabhyam. Vivek vairagyabhyam. Both of these, in the beginning, drudabhyam, may one solidify the vivek and vairagya. Actually, the extent to our desire to be liberated, we have, it depends upon the extent to which we have cultivated vairagya. You know, there are some people who are not privileged. The study of Vedanta. Akhandananji Maharaj used to give great examples. He says, I have gone for bhiksha in so many homes. We are talking about decades ago, during his time, where women don't have this privilege of studying Vedanta. Their time is spent in kitchen in front of the fire, the wooden stoves in those days. The whole life goes in front of the wooden stove, fanning that fire. One roti burns, the other one doesn't cook because it's not finely controlled. But eventually they figure out how to cook on a wooden stove. And with years of practice and doing this and realizing that this is all there is to life, nothing more. Some of them, they rise to a great stature in life, not having the opportunity to even come out of the home. We are talking about decades ago, where they were not even allowed in the living room, just in the back rooms and kitchen. But he said, I have seen people not having a privilege of this understanding, but dhrad vairagya. And he says that such are the gopikas. Bhagavan had to give special darshan to them. And his sight was enough for them to know Vedanta. Forget about learning. The sight of Krishna itself was enough. This is the Gopika Geet. Where have they gone to study Vedanta? But the mundane tasks of life generate so much vairagya that I want nothing. Bas, I want out of this. Akhandananji Maharaj says, vairagya itself is enough for mukti, nothing else. If Bhagavad Gita comes in our hands, if this textbook Vivekachudamani, Upanishads come in our hand, we have to thank our bhagya that these books have arrived in our hand. Without punya of past births, this is not available. But people who have to live their life in the same routine and they develop vairagya for it, it is enough for them to go towards mukti. Others study and become arrogant. मुझे आता है. आता है, लेकिन कितना पिया है? That is a whole different story. We can only drink as much as there is thirst for it. If the thirst itself is not generated, what vairagya are we going to have? Vairagya is a function of thirst. Bas, enough. This is very, very important. Even after these big studies that Mahatmas do, it boils down to vairagya. ना वैराग्य है. Can we just drop everything for the sake of Bhagavan? Bas. Tomorrow is Shri Krishna Janmashtami. Bhagavan arrives. But how many people, when Bhagavan arrives, really want him? These, the firmness of, over here Gurudev calls it the firmness of discrimination and intensity of dispassion. The intensity of vairagya. Bas. That is very, very important. Same idea. He continues in another example. Mano nama mahavyagro vishayaranya bhumishu charatyatra na gacchatu sadhavo ye mumukshavaha. Manoho, this mind, manaha, this mind, sorry, not manoho, manaha, nama mahavyagraha. There is a great tiger of the name called mind. And where does this tiger called the mind roam about? Vishaya aranya bhumishu. In the forest, the jungles of sense objects roams the tiger of mind. The tiger of mind roams in the very fertile fields, the dense jungles of sense objects. Then it is said over here, ye mumukshavaha, those who have desire to be liberated, mumukshavaha, desirous of liberation, sadhavaha, and sajjana purusha, good people. Those by nature, by inclination, they are sadhu janaha. They are good people. They don't want to wish ill upon anybody. And there are people who have studied and desire moksha. And good people, over here, he says, atra nagachatu. You don't enter that forest of sense objects. Over there, do not enter. Mano nam mahavyagraha charati. That tiger moves about in the forest of sense objects. But if there is a person desirous of liberation, if there is a sajjana, may that person not move about in this forest. Just recently, I just got a little blurb of, Murari Bapu just did his katha over here, not too far from Texas in Arkansas, a few weeks ago. And just happened to see the headline over there. Is a Lord Rama moved about in the deep forest of Kishkinda. And he asked all these trees, animals, where is Sita? All objects. By nature, Lord Rama is sadhu jana. Lord Rama, epitome of dharma. And that dharma is asking, where is your source? Because Sita is none other than Para Prakriti herself. Brahman is wedded to it. Brahman is in search of Maya, and he is asking Mayavi objects, Where is your source? Have you seen it? What a kalpana. And it is the same avyakta maya which made Rama run after a golden deer, knowing very well that it is only a figment of imagination. Who has seen a golden deer? You think Maya didn't know about it? And you think Brahman didn't know about it? But it is the Jivatva Bhav they are playing in the forest. That Brahman and Maya, they are separated only in the forest. What is that forest? Vishaya Aranya Bhumishu Charati Mahavyagra Mana. It's a deluded mind. For one to think I will be able to hunt, and for one to think I want it. And they both know it is an illusion. But yet, the Jivatva Bhav is exemplified. If we understand even our stories of Vyas Maharshi ji, of Valmiki ji, of Ramayana, Tulsidas ji, whatever it is, so much is said gently, very beautifully. Oh Jiva, don't run after all these things. Oh Jiva, don't run after all of these things. There lurks a grave danger the minute we turn towards. So over here, ye sadavaha, ye mumukshavaha, tatra nagachatu, do not enter this forest, the forest of sense objects. We will continue tomorrow with this. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.